Every time I hear Mother sing, it reminds me of several years ago we made a cassette tape. Because there's no young folks in here, they don't know what a cassette tape is. But when we went to the studio to record, the man asked what kind of music did we sing. I mean, he knew it was gospel music, but he was trying to kind of get an idea of what to expect. And Daddy said, well, we just sang by letter. I had no idea what he's talking about. So I was just as surprised as the guy doing the recording. And he looked at Daddy, he said, what do you mean? He said, we just open our mouth and let her fly. So I get tickled when Mother comes up and she makes sure we know what key she's going to be in. And if we're in the right key, she's okay with stopping and starting it all over again. But I wouldn't change a thing about any of that. So. That being said, I'm going to preach to me tonight, if that's okay with y'all. I think most every time I've preached, I step on my own toes. So if by me stepping on my toes can help you, then we've accomplished two things. I would like to read two verses to start with. Matthew, the 5th chapter, starting with the 43rd verse. It says, you have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that do good to you. Wait a minute. Well, I kind of did some work in my Bible, so. Do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. I was riding down the road one day, and the Lord brought that scripture to my mind. Pray for those who spitefully use you. And I had one word for God when He placed it on my mind. And that's what I've titled my sermon tonight. How? Right. Brother James, how do I pray for those who spitefully use me? It's not an easy task. And so I just kind of shrugged it off. You know, you ever had God speak to you? It's like, we'll take care of that later. Fast forward a few weeks or maybe even months, and we were doing a devotion. I've told y'all about the devotion that Brother Ben sets up, and some of us read every day and comment back and forth. And the devotion was in 1 Samuel, the 26th chapter, verses 1 through 12. So the Ziphites, that's hard to say, came to Saul to Gibeah, saying, doth not David hide himself in the hill of, how are you going to say that? Achala? Before Jeshimon, which is before Jeshimon. Then Saul rose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul pitched in the hill of Achala, which is before Jeshimon, by the way. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And I looked that up to, I thought I knew what it meant, and I was right. He was certainly coming, and he was certainly coming after David, and he knew that. David therefore sent out spies and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. And David beheld the place where Saul lay. And Abner the son of Ner, the captain of his host, and Saul lay in the trench, and the people pitched round about him. Then answered David and said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground, and his bolster and Agag and the people lay around about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear, even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him the second time. And David said to Abishai, Destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? David said, Furthermore, as the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed, but I pray thee, take thou the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they gat them away, and no man saw it, nor knew it, neither awakened, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was fallen upon them. David had every opportunity in the world to take care of Saul. But something inside him wouldn't let him do that. When I was reading that just then, it made me think. He asked, who's going to go with me? Abishai said, I'll go. I was reminded, I was in about the 4th or 5th grade, and there was a good friend of mine that was going to get in a fight. Brother Roy, he knew that the guy he was going to fight had some friends that was pretty tough. And they were about over them. Nothing like what Saul had with his 3,000. But so my buddy come to me and he said, will you go with me? I'm just like Abishai. Yeah, I'll go. He goes to about 6 or 8 more friends. And we were just going not to fight, but to make sure it was a fair fight. And as we rounded the back corner of the gymnasium to go to where they was going to fight, I was standing beside my friend, and as we was walking, I quit hearing footsteps. And we didn't have any Abishais with us. They decided to watch from afar. So, as fate would have it, me and my friend got whipped pretty good. Had a brand new shirt. Don't know what a Nehru collar is? I told the boy that wanted to fight me, you better not tear up my shirt. And the first thing he did was cut me a flip by the collar of my shirt and ripped it halfway off. So, needless to say, it's good to have an Abishai in the crowd. And but anyway, David had all the opportunity in the world to take Saul out. It told us right there that God had placed him in a deep sleep. And the cool part, what I liked about David, I didn't read the rest of the story, whenever he walks upon the hill and he awakens them. And Brother Richie starts talking trash to him then. You know, you ain't much of a warrior, you ain't much of a, the guy that Saul's main man is supposed to be protecting him, he slept through it all. He said, here I am with, you recognize this? You recognize this spear? This was stuck up right beside your leader, your king. But yet he did not destroy him. And this wasn't the first time. Back in the 24th chapter, starting with the 16th verse. Got it here somewhere. And it came to pass when David had made an end of speaking these words to Saul, that Saul said, is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed me this day how that thou hast dealt well with me, for as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killedst me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware to Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men gat them up unto the hold. And not only did David not kill him the first time or the second time, he kept his promise unto Saul. Years later, when Saul's grandson, I believe it's help me with his name, but being Mephibosheth. I don't know why they have to name these. Could be just Mark and John and Paul. They got to have some crazy names. When he had no right to sit at the king's table, but because of where his ancestry came from, David honored what he had told Saul, even through all that Saul had done unto him. And just as David said, Saul died in battle, fell on his own sword. And all this being said, it reminded me of a story. Actually, it's not a story; it's a true story. So I guess it's. I had a good friend had a motorcycle wreck several years ago. He had and he wouldn't care if I called him. His name was Lynn Brown. He'd been doping for years. Just his mama prayed and prayed and prayed for him. He just doping and doping. He didn't care. And he'd cleaned himself up, and he's on his motorcycle riding down the road, and he's praying. And he said, Lord, what would happen if I went back to what I was doing? He said not much quicker than he had said that in his mind, that a car T-boned him. Messed his leg up. He almost died from the wreck. Had to wear a port for antibiotics. They had to give him antibiotics just every so many hours when he got home. And Brother Richie, he gave up a lot of stuff when his wreck happened. And he was sitting on the back porch one day, and he was smoking a cigarette. And his mama come outside, and he got all over him. And he said, Mama, I quit doping, I quit drinking, and I quit working almost the same time. Give me just a little time on this smoking. And the reason I'm telling that story is because that's the way I was when God spoke to me that morning to pray for those that spitefully use you. Right. I told God, I said, look, there's lots of other things I need to work on before I need to work on that. I don't know why you want me to take care of that. I've got this that I'm dealing with. Right. I've got this that I mess up on daily. Let's work on this. Give me just a little time on this. And basically what it was, Sister Debbie, I was enjoying being mad. I'm just being honest. I read this, I was reading this devotional that morning, and there was a gentleman in town that he'd really done me wrong. Brother Carol, I'd been mad for 2 years. And I was okay with being mad, because he done me wrong. It's okay for me to be mad because I've been done wrong. But the Lord spoke to me. He said, you need to make this right. I said, okay, God, I'm working on this. When I get this took care of, I'll take care of it. I promise I will take care of that. And he hit me again. Pray for those who spitefully use you. Then I started bartering with him. I may be the only one that ever does that. I don't know. I've done it. You know, you be at church and Lord say, I want you to go pray for so-and-so. Okay, if they'll march 3 times and turn around twice in front of the piano, I know that's you telling me to go pray for them. Is anybody else do that but me? Brother Carroll, okay, we're on the same page. So I'm preaching to you and me tonight then. We're the only ones that ever does that. So I said, okay, God, if this is really you, if I'm really supposed to do this, if I'm really supposed to go apologize to somebody that did me wrong, you let his car be at his place of business when I come through. And you don't know how bad I was wanting that car not to be there. I stopped and I got my coffee, and when I walked out with my coffee, I could see his place of business from where I get my coffee. And I just shook my head. And I didn't say it, but I was thinking, God, I don't want to do this. I ain't done nothing wrong. Why do I need to go apologize? And the Lord said, pray for those who spitefully use you. I said, okay, God. I told you as I was driving to town, if his vehicle was here, I was going to do what you told me to do. I don't like it. I don't see why I have to do this. But I did. I walked in his place of business, and you thought I was... Ever how tall that is. People just scattered. They knew, Brother James, they knew the history because they had heard their stories. They had heard his story. They hadn't heard my story. But God didn't send me in there to tell my story. But they just scattered. And I kind of, I don't smell bad. I thought, well, I couldn't figure out why they was running away. And I walked in, and I stuck my hand out, and I shook hands with him. I said, I need to apologize to you. He said, what for? I said, I've been mad for 2 years, and I'm tired of it. And I've never felt such a burden that I didn't even realize I had. I felt it lift. There wasn't no bolts of lightning come down. They didn't nothing flash up and angels come down and carry me around or whatever, but I felt a burden lift that I had no idea was even there. Right. Simply because I did what God said. It ain't always easy. I was like, before I was like, really, God? This is really what I've got to do. And, you know, when I preached, the last time I preached, can I go along with that? But did you die? I felt like I was going to. One of the hardest things I ever did, going to apologize to somebody when I hadn't done anything. All I had done was get mad. But I realized something in all that, being mad for 2 years, hadn't affected him at all. You know, I'd see him coming down the road, and I didn't want to see him. Another gentleman that had, in the same time frame, when I was talking to our lawyer, and I told the lawyer, I said I could cut his throat and watch him bleed. And Robin said, you can't tell him that, you're a preacher. I said, yeah, he's my lawyer, and he can't repeat it. But I saw that gentleman before, and this is before God put it on me to apologize. This man stopped in front of me and got out and walked back to my truck. And I shook his hand. I got out and hugged his neck. And I told him, I said, if you had stopped in front of me a year ago, I would have run over you. And I wouldn't have cared. So I've carried these two men. They didn't care. They could have cared less that I was mad, that I was hurt. But when I forgot all about the other man. But this one here, I'd see him, and it just Melissa, it would just it just boil up inside. Not only he hurt me, it hurt my son, my wife, my entire family. But I had to do what I had to do. Because God said, pray for those. I don't know what's going to come of it. But I know the burden that I had, that I didn't even know I had, was gone. I felt like, Brother Richie, I felt like a new man almost. And it's weird how you hold on to things that you don't really know. You know, sometimes we get so used. I guess you can get used to being mad. You get so used to being any kind of way. What's the Febreze commercial? You go nose blind. You're just mad, and you're mad, but you're okay with it. But God wasn't okay with it. So if Brother Carroll, I got tickled. I hope you didn't see me laughing Sunday morning, but if you did, I'm sorry. But when Brother Charles was preaching, you said, "Preach to me, brother." I looked at Brother Joseph, and I said, I thought he already was. So tonight I'm getting to fulfill what me and you, we got something in common we've got to work on. And I hope you take my humor and don't want to crucify me later. I have found out over the past few weeks that not all Pentecostals are humorous. I'm just saying. There's a Facebook page that I used to be on that it was supposed to be, well, by the fact, the administrator said this is a humorous page. They don't know what funny is, so I had to delete the page because they kept on crucifying me for my humor. But anyway, God is good, and I'm thankful that He overlooks my faults to a point until He says, okay, this is what you need to do. If it's in here, He didn't ask me to do nothing that nobody else has ever had to do. So it ain't like He's being, what's the word say, His burden easy and His yoke is light. It didn't cost me a dime to stop and apologize. And found out yesterday that he had actually been telling people, you know, Jody, come by and talk to me. Kind of a hard thing to do. But when God says it, I got to do it. And the benefits from it outweigh the hardness of doing it.
Amen.
Like I said, I felt a release of something that I didn't even know was a hold of me. Like I said, when you get used to being in some way. You know, one of my pet peeves is somebody's doing some certain thing. Well, that's just how they are. Well, they are, they'd be better. Just like me. That's just the way I was. And that's something God knew I had to take care of. It wasn't, nobody else could do it.
Right.
You can't apologize to somebody because I'm mad and they don't do a good bit of good. Won't help them or me either one. I know God is I know He's about to do something. Like Brother Charles said, when God starts blessing, the devil starts messing. And all we can do is do like the prophet did and gird our loins up and run. Because, like he said in the Word, I hear the sound of abundance of rain. Don't pray for me.
How well the
be easy, but it tells us how. But see, Calvary wasn't easy either. Wasn't easy for Jesus. He said, "If it be thy will, Father, let this cup pass from me." But aren't you glad he went ahead?
Amen.
Praise God. Praise God. We may not always, you know, and I thought as he was saying that, what was, I've heard some people put it this way, you know, when we're not willing, you know, to forgive, it's like somebody, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. You know, sometimes we just need to get the poison out of our system, and how much better we'll feel. Thank you, Brother Jody, for that word tonight. Praise God. Let's all stand. Sunday morning, 7:30, Brotherhood breakfast. Praise God. Maybe there'll be more donuts.